Well, Norwich City have become incredibly successful at throwing away advantages in the Championship. Yet another game in which Norwich City took the lead. Yet another game where Norwich City don't come away with all 3 points. Not only was this throwing away a lead, this was throwing away a lead to defeat. I think that is now 59 points thrown away from winning positions in the last 2 campaigns. We were the worst at holding on to leads last season. We are the worst this season as well. This is a long, historic issue with Norwich City, but this will probably take some beating in terms of complete and utter dominance turned into complete and utter misery. The final score from Carrow Road tonight was Norwich City 2, Sheffield Wednesday 3. This was a game in which Norwich City had complete and utter control in that first half. Goals from Borja Sainz and Ante Cianats. It was free-flowing. It was fluent. It was Norwich at probably their best in terms of complete performances in the Championship this season. And yet there was still the feeling of inevitability around the place. I went down to the concourse in the Barclay, as I always do at half-time, to have a pint with my good friends. And one of them always says, take a point, Jack. And we were 2-0 up. And I thought, will I take a point? I probably will. I probably will. And that kind of sums up where Norwich are at the moment. We are a team with a complete lack of understanding in terms of how to turn a lead into all 3 points. And that is ultimately the reason why we won't get top 6 this season. There were, I think, at points this season, high hopes. And look, I look back to Hull and Watford and Luton and Swansea and Stoke and Watford, those types of games this season at home, and we have utterly blown teams away. And I've gone, oof, at those points, like it's felt like anything has been possible. There's been a feeling where, okay, we can really mix it with the big boys. Even earlier on this season, when we played Sheffield United at home and Leeds United at home, it felt like there was a possibility that we could mix it with the big boys in the league this season. And yet we've not been able to string together a consistent run. And I think that's been partly down to injuries. That's been partly down to suspensions, some of which have been out of our control, some of which have been within our control. But performances like tonight, they very much sit within the take responsibility camp, the camp in which we have to look internally and we have to go, okay, this is now a recurring theme. Why is this happening? Is it coach? Is it players? Is it system? Is it individuals? Like, what is the reason why we're not turning these, performances from certain periods in games into results? It's deeply concerning. Sheffield Wednesday, look, they were absolutely nowhere to be seen first half, and then we kind of gradually let them back in it, and you could see the control starting to kind of hand over, and you could see that momentum start to shift, and ultimately they took the lead. And even when they took the lead, I think there was still probably like 20 minutes left in the game, if you include injury time. You never felt like Norwich were going to get back into the game. And that's been the issue. Not only have we been surrendering leads really easily, we have a complete inability to get back into games when we go behind. We concede sloppy goals. We have to be at 110% to score goals. And that's a really dangerous combination. And look, if you look at the data, it says that Norwich City don't give up too many good chances. Norwich actually don't give up a whole lot of chances in games, but the chances they do give up, they concede. And that is a huge worry. That's a defensive issue. That's a goalkeeping issue. That's a systematical issue. That is an issue that Johannes Hoftorp has to look at, has to face head on, and has to understand that if Norwich are ever going to be successful in this league, then this is something we're going to have to turn around. This was a game where we started Emi Marcondes as a centre forward. This was a game where Josh Sargent sat on the bench. There's been no kind of solidity in terms of starting 11s this season. But we looked good for that 45 minutes. I thought Ante Cianats had a really bright start. I thought Paul Hysaj looked back on it and he kind of remembered when to shoot and when not to shoot again, and that was really good. But still, there was this nagging feeling in my mind that even at 2-0, something bad was going to happen, and that shouldn't be happening. I was used to, even under David Wagner, when it felt quite glum around the place, you felt more often than not Norwich would win at home. That feeling's completely gone. I mean, this last, let's say 3 weeks, we've had Derby County, Preston, Oxford and Sheffield Wednesday at home. That was the run. That was the period in which Norwich were going to win 4 games in a row at home. We were going to solidify our chances of top 6 this season, and we were really going to kick on. From Derby, Preston, Oxford and Sheffield Wednesday, Norwich City have taken 2 points. 2 points from a possible 12. That is unforgivable. And I think you have to look at multiple sources, but I hope deeply that within there is a real reflection point at this stage, because not only have they given the season up during that period, but there have been players that I think will look at this period and probably never play for Norwich again in terms of like next season. I'm looking at the likes of Jakob Sorensen. I'm looking at the likes of potentially Onel Hernandez. Players that have been given chances and probably not taken them in key moments, and that's a real disappointment. But it feels like a real low point for Norwich in this Johannes Torp era. It feels like a real moment of we have to reflect and we have to look at what's going wrong, because what we've seen over the past month hasn't been good enough. We've seen high points and we've seen low points, and look, I suspect the truth lies somewhere in the middle. But tonight was a real moment of kind of sadness and just a period of real kind of toughness for Norwich, if that's a word. I'm left somewhat speechless for what I witnessed tonight. It was a complete and utter capitulation, and I think that will take a few days to try and work out where exactly that went wrong. Norwich went 2-0 up. We've lost 3-2 to Sheffield Wednesday. It's very much season over in terms of playoff hopes. What can only be left for the rest of this season is players trying to play for contracts going into next season. But this was a real tough one to take. Let me know what you thought down in the comment section below. Thanks very much for watching, everyone. Bye-bye.